That has been delayed, now that we lie, no one's in a hurry, there's no step to keep. All the joy in Jesus, sitting at His feet. You can see me now, I'm walking streets of gold. You can see me now, I'm standing tall and bold. You can see me now, you know I see His face. You can see me now, you know the pain you made. You would want me to ever leave this way. You could always see me now. And never will be tried. Running away when I misunderstood. Though we've had our sorrows, they can never compare. Jesus has in store for us, no language can share. You can see me now, I'm walking streets of gold. You can see me now, I'm standing tall and bold. If you can see me now, you know I can see His face. If you can see me now, you know the things He can see me now. I'm walking streets of gold. If you can see me now, I'm standing tall and bold. If you can see me now, you know I can see His face. If you can see me now, you know the things He makes. You would want to ever leave this perfect way. You can always see me now. You
family and friends, thank you for being here this evening in these next few moments to honor a man that was known and loved by many. My name is Jeremy, and I'm a distant relative of his. And I'm honored to get to be here to serve as a bit of an MC to this ceremony and this celebration of life that a lot of people in the room are going to get to be able to share some stories from the life of a great man who served and loved a lot of people. James David DeGroote, 71 of Bloomington, passed away July 24th, 2023 at his home. David, or as many knew him as Dad, was born June 10th, 1952 in Evansville, Indiana, to James and Martha Kavanaugh DeGroote. David was born and raised in Evansville, Indiana, and went on to obtain his associate's degree in paramedic science from Indiana State University, where he met his first wife, Catherine A. Richardson DeGroote, from Elkhart, Indiana. They were married 12 years and had 2 daughters. He could never get enough knowledge about the human body and how to save lives. He loved traumas, and it was well known that he was a master of keeping calm, educating, prioritizing, compartmentalizing, and even risking his own life in order to save others. He was always pushing the limit and thought outside the box when it came to emergency services. He implemented cave rescue training, water rescue, and rappelling off of the hospital parking garage, which were unprecedented at the time. He ran mock mass traumas and held his employees to the highest of standards. He expected the same from his daughters, who often were involved in many of those trainings. In 1980, he developed the Bloomington Hospital Ambulance Service. He had a dream of creating a better system to help those in need, and he ran with it. He dedicated almost 30 years to BHOS and left a legacy that is not only admirable, but the number of people that he inspired along the way is countless. He strived for greatness and achieved it. He expected perfection, but was forgiving of flaws. He encouraged and supported so many to help shape the path of their careers and their lives. Many of the people that he hired as teenagers are still working there currently, and it is a general consensus that he is the reason that they love what they do. He loved knowing them, and he loved talking about memories he shared during those times. Seeing people grow was a passion of his, and there is no doubt that he died proud of each and every employee he had throughout the years. He retired in 2008 and moved to Navarre, Florida with the love of his life, Tammy Wellman DeGroote. Tammy and he were married for 27 years, and there wasn't a day that went by that he didn't dote on her and his love for her. While in Florida, David began working for the Santa Rosa Island Authority as a lead maintenance tech heavy equipment operator after obtaining his CDL. He truly lived out his dream on that beach after sending videos to those in Indiana complaining about the terrible views and the terrible weather. The beach and just being on the water was something that always gave him peace. In 2020, after suffering from a severe case of fungal meningitis, he and Tammy returned to Indiana to be closer to their family. And in 2021, he began working for the City of Bloomington Urban Forestry, doing lawn care and nature preserve. He's always loved nature and loved what he did. Although always missing his BHOS days, David took every job very seriously, and his work ethic was noticed and admired by many. He officially retired in 2023 and spent most of his free time with his family and the other love of his life, Dakota, his German Shepherd and best buddy. Surviving him are his 2 daughters, Lauren Stewart of Westfield and Catherine Shar of Bloomington, his stepson Zachary Wellman of Bloomington, and their children Dylan and Casey Wellman. And he had 3 grandsons, Braden Stewart, Preston Stewart, and Trey Rowe. 2 sisters, Kathy Combs of Florida and Jamie Richardson of Evansville, along with many nieces and nephews, and he was preceded in death by his parents and sister, Carol Lamont. To the family in the room, allow me to say a few things. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this day. And I know that no amount of words that you're experiencing and have experienced over these past few days, and truthfully will experience over these next few days. But I truly am thankful that you would allow me to be a part of this process in such a small way, maybe be able to help you look forward to the next days ahead. However, I am sorry that you have lost someone that loved each of you, and in your own words, loved each of you so fiercely. But it is for all the reasons you have to grieve today and have grieved over these past few days, that you also have so many reasons to be thankful that you have a person like your father to call dad. You see, when we look into Scripture and we read about how valuable time is for us as human beings, and when we look into Scripture, we read in the books of wisdom, and we look into the book of Ecclesiastes, and it gives us some information and gives us some value about what time really means to each one of us as we live out our days here on this earth. And looking around at the pictures and the storyboards and the stories that have been communicated in this room earlier today, and the slideshows that were on the television, and many things that have yet to be told to each one of you, we know that the time that was spent here on this earth for your dad was significant. In the book of Ecclesiastes, we read that there is an occasion for everything and a time for every activity under heaven, a time to give birth and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to avoid embracing, a time to search and a time to count as lost, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. For what does the worker gain from his struggles? I have seen the task that God has given the children of Adam to keep them occupied. He has made everything appropriate in its time. He has also put eternity in their hearts. But no one can discover the work God has done from beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for them than to rejoice and enjoy the good life. And it is also the gift of God whenever anyone eats, drinks, and enjoys all of his efforts. I know that everything God does will last forever, and there is no adding to it or taking from it. God worked so that people will be in awe of him. And while the obituary gives us a brief summary of the life of David, and while we read in Scripture about the value of time that we have on this earth, I feel like it would only be appropriate to let people who were in on those times of healing and rejoicing and celebrating and dancing and all of the times that he had here on this earth, that it would only be appropriate for them to get to tell their stories that they got to be able to be a part of in his life. And so over these next few minutes, I will gladly share the microphone with people that got to experience and to know and to be loved by and to be able to get to hear their stories and how they were shaped and molded by David. So, Kate, come on.
Hello. For those that don't know me, I'm Kate, David's youngest daughter. I go by many names, those who very long, so changes often. Before I begin this novel, I would like to say that it's possible there's some vulgarity in what I'm about to say, but it just would not be right if I didn't have it in there. So I apologize ahead of time. I'm just bear with. I've always imagined this moment being one of the hardest moments of my life. I'm sorry. I know I do. I don't know what's it. I don't know. Okay. I've envisioned it more times than most daughters probably have. But I've almost lost him before, and so ever since, it has been a reality for me. I actually wrote a eulogy when he was in the ICU a few years ago. When he recovered, I vowed to never take a single day with him for granted. I know in my heart that I lived up to that. Every single moment I had with him after that was cherished, and it was always in the back of my mind. If I were ever to lose him, it would be the worst day of my life. It's not always a step, I promise. This year's been excruciating. Although we shared many laughs and good times together, I got to know him in a way that I never had before. We fought for the first time since I was a teenager, and he frustrated the absolute shit out of me sometimes. That being said, I always knew how much he loved me and appreciated me, and know that he knows I felt the same. We would get so mad at each other for our stubbornness, and yet I know in his head he was proud of me for being so, and I was always a little proud to show him the girl that he raised, I'm not gonna lie. I loved telling him, "Get back in the bitch." He raised us to be strong, take anyone shit, and to always follow our hearts. As many of you know, he used humor even in the most serious of situations. I'm not gonna look up anymore, I can't even, you guys. Oh my gosh. Not just humor either, but sick, twisted humor. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And even as I'm writing this, I can hear him cracking inappropriate jokes in my ear. It's unfortunate that we had so many deaths of mutual friends and family members, but looking back to the funerals that we attended together, I can't help but smile. The things he would whisper as others were reading eulogies are things that I can't even tell you about now or repeat. He hated seeing me sad. He hated when I hurt, and there's nothing he wouldn't do to make me laugh. Bringing him to things in public was always a huge risk. He would go to my son Trey's karate practices with me, and we would laugh so hard that we got in trouble a lot. One time, we were actually asked to wait outside because he kept trying to trip one of the students that wasn't paying attention to him. While outside, he said, "I'm gonna wait for his parents to come out and smack the shit out of him." Then he'd say, "You're welcome." Going to restaurants was always an adventure. Trey would always get nervous because family events usually ended up with a spitball war with straw wrappers or a straw full of milkshake going down his back. Trey would look up in disbelief, wanting me to say something, but all I could say is, "Dude, it's Poppy. You better get used to it, because it's not gonna stop." My dad's response, of course, to Trey would always be, "Oh, toughen up, Nancy." I'm sure a lot of you have heard that phrase before, and I sincerely apologize if there are any actual Nancys in the room. I apologized for him a lot. Tammy knows what I'm saying. Just kind of had to say sorry. Growing up with someone like Dad was difficult at times because he expected the same from us that he did from his employees. He ran a tight ship for sure, and was not afraid to let us know when we were falling short. However, now that I'm a parent myself, I feel so incredibly blessed to have been able to learn and watch from one of the greatest people to have ever walked this earth. He taught me things that I could never have learned without him. When I went to live with my mom for 3 years in middle school, I learned for the first time just how much he meant to me. We developed a special bond through letters that were in code and sealed with BHA stickers, those wingings. He told me, if the stickers are not intact, burn them immediately to remove the evidence. It was so incredibly exciting to receive one of his letters and crack the code of, "I love you more than the moon and stars." Everyone knows how goofy he was, but not everyone knows how deep he was as well. Crap, I just looked at him. I would call him as much as I could just to hear his voice, and if I ever started crying, he would tell me to look at the moon at a certain time. He said, "No matter how far away we are, just know that I am looking at the exact same moon as you and thinking about you." He just always had a way of bringing comfort to people, and it's one of the things that made him truly special. It's clear by now how everyone talks about him that he had the capability of making every person he knew feel like they were the most special person in the world. So many people had told me, "I hope you know how lucky you are to have him as a dad." And I just want to say for the record, I know. I've always known. I remember using a payphone during lunch to call him at school. He was rarely in his office, so it typically went to voicemail, and just the sound of his voice gave me instant comfort. I would have my friends listen and say, "That's my dad." They were less than impressed, and I didn't make much friends that way, but you guys know what I mean when I say his voice. Man, he was so fucking cool. He was a true badass, and we knew it. I can still smell him and hear the sound of his boots in the kitchen when he was getting ready to go to work in the mornings. I won't talk much about B-House because I spent a lot of time with you guys throughout the years, and you all know what effect that had on me. I will say though, that being a charge nurse in the ED that was directly across from his office is something that I had always dreamed of. He was so proud of me, and I used every reason in the world to tell anyone that would listen that David DeGroote was my dad. Even though he would often disagree and tell me that I was the milkman's daughter. And then I would say something sarcastic or cuss or something, he'd be like, oh, yeah, you're mine. The problem was that everyone called him dad, so no one was ever impressed. They just say, oh, yeah, me too. He never got to see me in action, unfortunately. But I would call him often to vent about a patient or a hard night, and he would put even the worst of bosses into perspective. His biggest thing was, did you try? I would always say, like hell, Dad. And he would say, then they were lucky that you were their nurse. If God wanted them, they would have died regardless. But a lot sooner if you hadn't been their nurse. I took a lot of pride in myself that I inherited his ability to stay calm in a trauma and could never, ever get enough of the feeling of saving lives. A year ago, I lived only a mile away from him and Tammy. I would pass by their house on my way home after a late night, and if I saw the light of his cigarette on the porch, I would always stop. We would just sit on the porch and talk about life. He knew when to be funny with me, but also when to be serious. He was just my perfect person. And sometimes I don't know how to go on without him. Sorry. He was so protective of me, and in time, sorry, I got this blood. And anytime that someone hurt me, whether it be a boyfriend or a boss that was being an asshole, he would get his hat on, hand me a shovel, and say, where are we going? I'll handle this, I know people. If it was a man, he would say, I will find him, and I will kill him. If it was a woman, he would say, I don't believe in hitting women, but your mouth's right. I will fuck that bitch up. He sees me hurting now, and I know he feels helpless, but when he realizes that losing him is the cause of my pain, I can see him saying, well, shit, I'll have to Google how to kill someone that's already dead. Then he would ask me how to use Google. You know what I mean. You know that this is his humor, so I'm sorry. Although cut entirely too short, I feel blessed that I got the time that I did. I thank God every day that Blake and Raven got to see him at his best, and that Trey will forever know how special his poppy was. Trey is a very literal kid and has an old soul. Although Blake and I are both goofballs for some crazy reason, sarcasm and humor didn't always come naturally for him. It drove us crazy, but when my dad and Tammy moved back to Bloomington, he got to spend a lot of time with him. And it didn't take long before he learned every cuss word in the book, and sarcasm quickly followed. Dad? I would have him pick Trey up from school sometimes and ask, everything go okay with Trey's pickup? Only to have him say, who's Trey? I could hear them laughing in the background, and then he'd say, oh, yeah, he's fine. Just left the strip club, heading to the bars. Don't wait up, it'll probably be a late night. And I know, don't worry. I'll make sure he gets all the glitter off before coming home. That's a direct quote. I could talk about him all day and still only make a dent in the memories and things that made him special to me. I will end this with this. He left this earth being proud of us, all of us. He got to meet my husband, Rob, and was the only person on this earth that I wanted there beside me when I said I do. He was going through hell at the time, and yet was genuinely happy and supportive of us. I don't know how I could marry someone that my dad did not approve of, and he told me all the time how much he did, and knew that he would take care of me, and he has. Rob, you've been my rock, and I love you so much. I'm sorry to say, though, that you are officially stuck with me whether you like it or not, because he handed over the responsibility, and you are not my person. Tammy, thank you for not only what you did for us growing up, but for being a wife to him that he doted on continuously and loved more than words could ever describe. He truly cherished every single day with you, whether he showed it or not, he did. I love you so much, and I am so grateful for you. To everyone else, thank you for the memories and for being such a big part of his life. He truly loved the life that he lived, and he lived it hard. He didn't plan for the future because he took it one day at a time. He lived for the right now and always knew that whatever came was God's will. He was at peace with that. Dad, I will love you forever and a day. I am completely broken and lost without you, but I will continue to make you proud. The deepness of the pain I feel is only because we shared a love that strong. Until we meet again, and I look forward to you fucking with me with your new special powers. Thank you, Preston.
Good thing I'm not nervous at all, so that's trying to somehow find the words to express all that I feel towards my dad. And a 45-minute eulogy is going to be difficult, but I'm going to figure it out. So, I can 30. We'll make it 30 minutes. I'm going to give it a shot. So here it goes. My dad had many nicknames, one of which is probably the most used one is Dad. And I just want to put it out there that I'm the one that gave him that title. My dad, was the absolute coolest dad with the most fantastically sick sense of humor. He could tell a joke or mess with you in any way and keep a straight face the entire time. I remember him telling me how he liked to sometimes mess with people during their interviews by taping a fart machine under the interviewee's chair while he held the remote conducting the interview and let it rip on the patient. Of course, keeping a straight face the entire time and making the interviewee hilariously uncomfortable. He was the king of pranksters, and I'll never forget his laugh, often self-induced. His wicked sense of humor was undoubtedly one of the best things about him, and I absolutely loved hearing all of his stories, a lot of which we got to hear from others in person during the celebration that was held in his honor for his years of service with BHOS in September of 2021. I will forever be grateful to those who coordinated that and everyone who came because it's currently giving me solace that he saw firsthand in person all of the love and respect that so many people have for him. And I'm sure many stories will be told today, both at the viewing and right now at his funeral, that will have people smiling and laughing, which is what he would want. These are the stories that I know he wants to continue to be told for decades to come, and they'll certainly be passed down as part of his legacy, well, some of the more appropriate, age-appropriate ones for the grandkids, for years to come. These are the stories that I'm sure he's enjoying floating around and hearing right now. We always said that if we could choose our type of funeral, we both want it to be something more light and humorous, a party you'd want to go to, you know. Easier said than done, but I think you'd be pleased. Dad was also one of the deepest, most spiritually connected people that I knew, especially since getting sober in 2008. His words of wisdom and gratitude always brought me back to center. I always told him during one of our deep talks that he reminded me of Dr. Wayne Dyer. He kind of looked like him a little bit too. He always kind of made me feel bad for complaining by reminding me of all that I have to be grateful for. My dad wasn't really a big church person, but he knew God, and he had a strong connection to him and his angels. I've always kind of fantasized about him coming to church with me and checking it out. I couldn't get him to, but now as my lead guardian angel, I insist he comes to church with me on Sundays. I have a strong feeling that he loves it because he now hangs out with me. So he came to church with us last Sunday for the first time, and ironically, the sermon was about overcoming grief, which is exactly what I needed to hear. I know for a fact that Dad is with us. He's with each one of us, and those not able to make it. He's been throwing around signs like crazy, and it is the coolest damn thing. I can hear him in my head. I know exactly what he'd say for advice at just about any given moment, whether I want to hear it or not. And a lot of us, due to the unfortunate circumstances of his last months, weeks, and days, are carrying a lot of heavy and unwarranted guilt and overwhelming stress and sadness. Now, this is where it gets extra hard for me, but I know that he'd want me to say it. because I know that he was guiding me through this for a 100% fact. He knew that again, this was likely going to be the result. He, Dad, wants to fully take the blame and the guilt and the woulda, shoulda, coulda out of everyone's vocabulary. And he wants us all to know that he owns it. He owns this. This is not on you. This is on him. And he's learned from it. He's done his life review, and he's seen how he's impacted everyone he's come into contact with for both the positive and the negative. He's felt how he's made you feel, the good and the bad, and he gets it now. He's without pain, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and he's happier and more at peace than he's ever been in his whole life. He is doing great. It's us who are hurting. And it's okay to hurt because we're going to miss him. That's only natural. It's not okay to hurt because of guilt. Get that shit out. I swear to God, he would tell us all to knock it the hell off and cut it out with the sappy shit. Go enjoy life. Soak up every bit of this manifestation. Forgive easily and let go of grudges towards yourself and towards others. Stop and be present for those that you love. Everything else can wait. Tell people you love them as often as you can, for you never know when it's going to be the last time. Well, okay, here we go. Give others grace and compassion and judge less. That is not for us to judge. It's for God. Life gets tough for all of us sometimes, and if you want to be forgiven for your screw-ups, then you have to be forgiving of others. Just love one another. That's it. That's all it is. Love is always the answer, always. And I want to remind us of that, especially now that he's got the eagle's eye view. Get what I did? So let it go. Hand it over to God. And know that you are never truly alone, especially with James David DeGroote, aka Dad, aka the Eagle, or his favorite, Dave. Up there is one of your angels who you can talk to at any time, anywhere. He hears us, and he'll continue saving lives, protecting us, and pulling strings for us from the other side that we may never know about until the day that we too pass. So take these lemons and turn them into lemonade. Let's make Dad so ridiculously proud of how his impact on our lives has made us step it up, just like he expected out of his employees. Continue to do better and be better. I plan on doing just that. We love you, Dad.
Ain't afraid to die. I have true lived. Heaven hand ever blushing bright. Don't know my best friend. I ain't afraid to die. What these eyes have seen. Beauty of my son's first day. You first smile back at me. When my time comes. When all my things are done, when don't cry for me. Oh, my body, my feet broken in the ground. Oh, my soul, if you be free. My soul, if you be free. It's been too long trying to do it on my own. Had to feel that through the valley to find my way back home. Instead, I realized all that I had. My eyes are open wide. What real love is. When my time comes. When all my things are done, and don't cry for me. Yeah, my my soul will be free. My soul will be free. All the fame and all the gold, you can't take them to the grave. In the end, all it is are zeros in the bank. The love we got, the love we made, I wanna say that I'm just a man. So don't you don't you cry. When my time comes, when all my days are done, when don't you cry for me. Oh, my body might be broken in the ground. Oh, my body might be broken in the ground. Oh, my soul will be free. My soul will be free. My soul will be free. My soul will be free.
As we continue on, having people continue to share their stories and their experiences, I would ask Tammy to come on.
First of all, I just want to thank everybody for being here, all your prayers and love. Over the last several days has been priceless. And although I thought for a week what I would say, I didn't start writing this down until about 2 hours before I got here. So it's not nearly as long as the first two. As hard as I imagined this would be, it's 1,000 times worse than that. I prayed to my Creator and David to give me strength. Well, still waiting. I never thought I'd imagined I would have to have. And I'm sorry, this is a little out of order. I think I'm missing a page. Everybody in this room loved David, and I'm sure he's looking down today, just in awe of your love and support and encouragement to the family. There's a lot of things that we all knew and loved about David. Some of them have already been mentioned. He loved his family. He especially loved memories of growing up. He loved the water, whether that was Barkley, Kentucky, Lake Monroe, or the ocean. Didn't matter. He loved his dogs. I keep seeing pictures all around the room. He loved his motorcycle. He loved helping others. And he had a dedication to his profession in BHOS that no one else has had. He had many abilities. One was to play practical jokes. One was to make you laugh. To energize you when you didn't realize he was doing this. He saw your potential. He was able to see a person's character. He had the ability to support and help in whatever way that he could. He had a strong work ethic. And he had the ability to fight for whatever he believed in. Many of you got your first chance in EMS from David, including myself. I was one of 3 students that had just graduated from her EMT class that he hired. He never hired green employees. I'm proud to have been one of those 3. I had a running joke. When you got hired at BHOS part-time, you got a blue North Face coat. Parka. And so people could always tell you were part-time. And when he handed me that blue coat for the first time, I said, "You wait. I'm gonna get one of those red coats." And I did. He was proud of every single uniform that you can see in his pictures. He was proud of those coats. He wanted his trucks to be immaculate. The windows, that's a whole nother story. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
You're all aware of BHOS legacy and the vision that David had. He pursued it and he obtained it. Those are the things that made David to all of you. I thought I'd share some things about him that you didn't know. For the most part, David kept his personal life private. For me, he was always my biggest supporter, my rock, always willing to sacrifice anything to make me happy. When I would think about changing jobs, he would always be there right beside me. He'd say, "Tam, whatever you want to do, I don't care, whatever makes you happy." He'd say, "I've got your back, in whatever you want," and he did. Though his outside image was always outgoing and funny, serious when he needed to be, but privately he could be quite modest. like all of us, he was human. There were times he questioned himself, pondered long and hard on decisions. He loved these things. He loved exploring flea markets and antique shops. He loved taking unplanned road trips, whether it was to Chicago, to Indianapolis, to St. Louis, to Destin, to Pensacola, it didn't matter. What he loved about it was that we were together. He loved writing love notes. We had a joke about Post-its with Post-its. So anytime we were separated, for whatever reason, we would hide Post-its wherever we could think of to hide them, so that when we were alone, we would find them. So God knows the places that he found those notes and where I found those notes. In a wallet, in a book, where your money goes in your wallet, in a book you were reading, in your favorite shirt that was all folded up. It didn't matter. And then we would joke when we were on the phone and say, how many did you find? We could have kept track. He loved to hold my hand. He loved to be a gentleman. Always had walk on the right side of me on the sidewalk, in the road, so that if anything were to happen, the car would hit him and not me. He had those old-time ethics and morals. He loved being able to say anything he wanted to around me. It didn't matter. He loved making and passing along traditions. Traditions in our family. He did not like arguing. He did not like talking politics. He did not like to talk on the phone. And he didn't like to cry. He loved reading and learning about wolves and their pack behaviors. I think that he really felt very connected to wolves, and that as humans, we are as well. When we moved to Florida and we worked for Pelham Training, we became the wolf pack. And we got t-shirts made for the staff that said wolf pack. He loved learning about Native Americans, their culture, traditions, and beliefs. He adopted many of those. I could go on and on talking about David. Bottom line is, there was a whole lot more to David DeGroote than he knew. He was not a religious man. He did not live in organized religion. And I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but it's the truth. He had a very, very strong faith. And he was very spiritual. He believed that there was something better after this life. And now he knows that. We had many years together with a lot of ups and downs, trials, tribulations, wonderful times. But some of the best times, some of the best years were after we got sober. We spent a lot of time praying together, making gratitude lists together, meditating in the presence of each other. I think being sober brought out the best in both of us. He loved talking to his creator on the beach or by any water. To him, the water was sacred. And there he found his serenity. The sunrises and sunsets were strong reminders to him that there was something greater than himself. In December this year, David and I would have been together 30 years, married 27. Together, as I said, we had many wonderful moments together. We had a lot of trials together. We built a blended family together, which was really sometimes hard, but we did it. Because of him, I have a wonderful family now. And wonderful grandchildren. And regardless of what changed in our relationship the last year, he always has been and always will be my best friend. And the love of my life. I know that now you are flying high with no pain. You are at peace. Until that time that we meet again. I love this saying, I found it, and we had talked about it before, the dread and death in our lives. Grief is the price we pay for having the courage to love. So today we grieve together. And he's looking down knowing it's because of our love for him.
My name is Jenny Richardson. I'm David's little sister. David and my twin sisters, Kathy and Carol, were 4 years apart and grew up very close. With the age difference between myself and them, I don't really share the same memories as they do. My clearest ones being holidays and our wonderful times at Barkley Lake. So when I was thinking about what I kind of wanted to say today,
I tried to think about the time that I really felt like the age gap between us started to dwindle. And that was most definitely when I was in college here at IU. He and my sister Kathy both lived in Bloomington during my 4 years here. And never really being away from home too much before that, they both provided me a huge security blanket despite being in the same town. Always the ever protective big brother. David would keep my then boyfriend, now husband, in line from time to time for me. More times than I would like to. When said husband lost his way by, I'm so sorry, Ray, but when he went to Purdue, it's a great school. You can put it to great there. When he went to Purdue our freshman year, and don't worry, he realized that treacherous mistake early on, transferred to IU that second semester. But anyway, David gave me the keys to our granddad's old truck that he owned. One day when he saw I was struggling, and he said, "Stop sulking, take my truck and go visit him." It was a stick, I think. I don't remember. I'd never driven a stick before, but I made it somehow. I'll just never forget that because that was my brother. Being the sister of the director of the BHOS certainly had its perks for me. I was lucky enough to somehow snag an incredibly impossible, hard to get a parking permit. The only drawback to that was everyone I knew wanted to ride to class, and that got old really quick. But the jealousy that I received from others because of that was the best time of my life. When David lived in Nashville, he would have Mike and I, or me and my college friends, girlfriends, out many times for precious home, or just to hang out and get away from college for a little bit, and being the big-hearted dog lover that he was. He adopted my roommate's golden retriever, Jessie, when she could no longer live in our apartment, giving her the best life possible without batting an eye. We played co-ed softball together during the summers I stayed at IU. My brother was one of the best athletes I had ever seen, and I was pretty much in awe of him during those years. Some of my very best times were with my siblings and their friends on those ball fields. It just made everything more fun. And let's talk about the limo. I mean, who buys a limo? My sister runs a service and becomes the chauffeur. He did. He loved every minute of that business. Lucky me getting picked up on graduation night, driven around to the bars as a broke college grad was probably the best darn thing that ever happened to me. My brother was a simple man with a huge heart. He'd be the first one to tell you he lost his way now and then. Happens to all of us. But no matter what, where, or what his life looked like at the moment, he was always there for me. He was unapologetically set in his ways. And although at times that made me frustrated, I came to admire that so much in him. In pure David fashion, he had a personal relationship with the Lord in his own very private way. He knew this life was only temporary and that his hope and peace came from God. That gives me such comfort knowing that he's in heaven with all of our family that has gone before him
My sister Kathy painted the perfect picture for us. When he passed so well, as she said, he now has a new glorified body, muscular, dark hair, and shiny and bright blue eyes. He's chatting with Carol. She was waiting at the gate with her white flowing hair. She was telling Jesus, "That's my brother, that's my brother." She's probably bossing him around, telling him all about his new home, paradise. And now he's no longer living alone. God saved him and took him to his real home in eternity, for eternity. That is the brother I love and remember. Always larger than life for me. My forever, handsomely incredible superhero. 1 Thessalonians 4:13-14 says, "Brothers and sisters, we want you to know about people who have died so that you won't mourn like others who don't have any hope. Since we believe that Jesus died and rose, so we also believe that God will bring with him those who have died in Jesus." Rest in peace, brother, until we meet again.
Need not to climb mountaintops, need not cross the sea, need not to find a cure for everything that makes you weak. Need not to reach for the stars when life becomes so dark, and when the wind does blow against the grain, you must follow your heart. You must follow your heart. When all your friends have come and gone, the sun no longer shines, and the happiness for which you long is washed away like an ocean's tide. All the hard times outweigh the good, and all your words are misunderstood. When the day seems lost from the start, you must follow your heart. You must follow your heart. If you feel the price, and your wounds should cease to heal, and everything you love in life spins like a whirling wheel. If you should wait to find your abandon, and the road you travel leads dead end when death creeps in to play its part. You must follow your heart. You must follow your heart.
So at this time, I would like to have Kelly Moltz from Beacon join up here. I believe she's here. And as most of you were aware of and worked with him in connection with BHOS or know of his fantastic efforts with paramedics and emergency medical services. There's at this time that they would like to present something on his behalf.
Good evening. My name's Stan Frank. I'm with the Department of Homeland Security. Family of David DeGroote, on behalf of the Governor of Indiana, Eric Halpin, the Director of Homeland Security, Joel Thacker, and the EMS Director under the EMS Division of the state. It's my great pleasure to be able to give this. It's an honor. It's kind of funny how that lineage I just read, all those people that could have selected it, I got tapped to do it. And I was talking to you earlier, Kate. I too have connections to Dad, giving me my first job as a paramedic at BHOS. So I found that very interesting that I got selected to do this. Let me get my eyes out so I can read this. So, what we're presenting, the EMS Director Emeritus, we all know that he was the Director of BHOS, the father of BHOS. And we don't need a certificate, but this is what it's about. Emeritus is an interesting term. It's usually given to people that have retired and they can hold that title of director for the rest of their life and beyond. Emeritus, the Latin term is veteran or soldier, which I think fit him very well. We all know that he was a pioneer of EMS. His EMS certification number was a 4-digit number, very low. He was certified as an EMT in 1975. Indiana had only started certifying EMTs for 2 years at that time. 1973 was the first time Indiana started certifying EMTs. So he is a true pioneer. He got his initial paramedic August 30th of 1978. In recognition of his passing, after years of commitment and dedication to the Indiana emergency service community, as an EMS provider, specifically an EMS director of Bloomington Hospital Ambulance, known to all of us as BHOS, with pioneer leadership and advocacy, David, Dad, created a legacy that remains recognized years after his retirement. Whether standard operations or specialty training such as cave rescue, dive, or rope rescue, David was a respected leader, recognized affectionately as Dad from his former crews. Although he is gone, he will forever be remembered for his exemplary service, excellence, and dedication to EMS. This is presented on behalf of Gordon Lee Turpin, our EMS Commissioner, and Craig Kenny, our State EMS Director. The other one I have is the one that was presented to him earlier, August of 21. So I will hand it just to both of you. You've got Russell or something.
Hi, I'm Helen Mullis, paramedic. What an honor it is to speak at the services this evening, and thank you sincerely for allowing me to do that. I expect it will be difficult, but David would certainly encourage me to do as he often did. 1 month ago, I too sat in your seat right here in the front row. So I do understand. So I've known David for 40 plus years in EMS as a mentor and most certainly a dear friend. To Lauren, Catherine, Tammy, Jamie, Zachary, the entire family, and his dear friends, I'm so sorry for this tremendous loss. I know it's shaken all of our EMS community and our public safety agencies. It's safe to say that David was full of life. I hope these words encourage you this evening. I had the opportunity to work with David side by side for many years and to succeed him as the second and final director of VHOS. And he personally asked me to carry that torch forward for approximately several years ago. Well, those were big shoes to fill. He made my job easier because of the foundation and the values that he laid at VHOS. Now the largest EMS agency in the state, because of that solid foundation and the vision and passion of David. I doubted myself along the way, but he encouraged me. And he listened often, and he continued to mentor me over the years, even after he was gone from there. That's who he was. He was an encourager. In the office, every single day was fun. When he was there, most of you have said in your many heartfelt social media posts that I've read that VHOS was probably your best job ever. David likely was one of the key reasons for that. Thinking back, let's just say it, some of the fondest memories were when he was completely inappropriate, funny, and he was taking risks. That was daily, to be honest. Guessing every one of you had some really funny stories and laugh to yourself when you think of David. Cherish those memories always in your hearts. He really did love to make people laugh and was full of shenanigans. I thought about how much he liked for people to laugh and decided to share at least one story that is reflective of both his humor and his inappropriate behavior. Not gonna lie, this is out of my comfort zone for a funeral. But it's happening in his honor with permission. He's definitely gonna be smiling for this one. One of the many times that he really impressed himself. I'm sharing it because it is completely inappropriate, and I believe he would want us to laugh this evening, just as he did at the most inappropriate times and places. The story starts with, and I thought Lauren was gonna steal my thunder. The story starts with the fart machine. David kept it in his desk, batteries always charged. He checked those batteries as often as he did Squad 303, his truck check, and he proudly told me batteries are good. And I said, I don't need to know that. But he still had to report it. One particular day, he and I were scheduled to go to a meeting in the Human Resources Department for a meeting with the two new recruiters, Lisa and Angela. He came out of his office and said, let's go, Gil. I noticed something black on his infamous neon green clipboard. And I said, what is that? He laughed and said, this is going to be so fun. Let's go, Shorty. I then ID'd it as the fart machine. I said, oh, no way. You are not taking that. As he quickly headed straight out the door with me following. At this point, we were in hysterics thinking about it and me begging him not to do it and how we really may get fired. So we walked through the hallways of the maze of the old Bloomington Hospital as many recall, to get to the HR department just off of Rogers Street. And so this is walking from the extreme west to the extreme east through the hallways. He tested it along the way. Of course, while I was passing by the patients, visitors, and nurses. We arrived at the front desk of HR. David introduced himself, and then he was there for a meeting with Angela and Lisa. The receptionist told us that they would be right out, and we were going to meet in the basement, and they would take us down shortly. At that point, I could only think of the elevator and pray that he did not activate it on the way down with the four of us in this elevator. Meanwhile, he did a couple test shots in the reception area. I whispered, "Stop," very seriously, and he just smiled. Lisa and Angela quickly came out and invited us to ride the elevator to the basement. These ladies were well-dressed and super professional looking. We boarded the elevator and the door closed. Yes, he did. And we all laughed, as if we were all wondering if someone had really passed gas. There was a period of awkward silence, but the ride was quick. Once in the basement and seated at a table of four, David focused on the meeting for a bit. Introductions. He went on about our B-House history that he took a long time to get very passionate about, as he is. And I thought he had hopefully forgotten about it or lost his nerve. I had no idea what they were saying because I had anxiety thinking and trying to prep myself in case he did. Nope, he didn't forget. He definitely didn't forget. He began to make some small sounds as the HR ladies giggled, but continued to speak in sentences. And then one prolonged hit of the button and very inappropriate. The ladies giggled and transitioned to extreme laughter, so I thought it had finally ended and they probably knew. Oh no, he then replied, "Ladies, do we have a problem?" Mind you, these were complete strangers. At this point, I was completely doubled over laughing uncontrollably and wondering at the same time if we really were getting fired. Those ladies and I had the funnest day of our career, and they will never forget it. And how he shaped the first days of their careers. Years of friendship was somehow formed that day. Each of you had those stories and will forever smile in remembrance of him. Tell those stories, my friends. They are healing. The truth is, David loved EMS, and he was an incredible and charismatic leader. He was a class act, and he had high expectations. Some of them you've already heard this evening: uniforms pressed, trucks clean, don't forget the mirrors, that's hardly been mentioned. Inspections, high quality care to our community, the best trucks, equipment, and training at B-House. He was the father of EMS, and yet he took no credit himself. He owned that 1994 Bronco like a boss, and he drove it for 14 years, responding on calls, cruising campus as Squad 303. He hurried to do his office work and just to get out there and take calls and living his EMS dream. And don't forget, he knew the hot lunch spots, such as Bud's Sandwich Shop or Hinkle's, where we got our fried bologna sandwiches or burgers with regularity. A person like David will only pass through our lives but once. And because of the tremendous impact that he has had on all of us, a father, a husband, a grandfather, a mentor, and a friend, our pain is great. He taught us how to live life. To have fun, to take risks, to care, to get a vision, to just be a great human. David will be missed. I would challenge each of you to think about at least one thing that you learned or cherished about David and carry that gift forward. Make a difference every day in his memory. Be your best self like he was. Carry on what he started. Last, David was a man of faith, and he spoke to me often about God. He believed that there is a reason for everything and trusted God with all things. Be comforted that he has, without a doubt, reached his destiny in heaven and is sitting on a heavenly beach. I share this short quote with you tonight about faith. Faith doesn't always take you out of the problem. Faith takes you through the problem. Faith doesn't always take away the pain. Faith gives you the ability to handle the pain. Faith doesn't always take you out of the storm. Faith calms you in the midst of the storm. The days ahead are hard, trust me. Have faith, allow yourself some grace, but keep going and trust God. In closing, to our dear David, I know you're living your best life, wild and crazy, life in heaven. You will be forever in our hearts. Carry out your vision, living out your legacy each day, being our best selves, laughing often, having passion, standing united, and occasionally even being inappropriate. You left us a tall order, but you taught us well. We will never forget. On behalf of the EMS community, your dear family and friends, thank you for lighting our way each day.
As most of you in the room will know, but for some of you who do not, when someone who is a first responder ends their shift, they will radio into dispatch to inform them that their shift has been finished. And when someone is finished with their last shift at the end of their career or their retirement, they'll do what is called an end of watch or an end of run call in. And so they have asked and have been granted permission to, on behalf of David, to do an end of watch final call. And so at this time, they would like to do
Final call for Boys and Hospital Ambulance Service retired Director David DeGroote. David has touched many lives during his short time with us. Our community is in a better place because of David's service. As a community, we are grateful as we know we will never see his type of kindness, empathy, and strong devotion for our fellow mankind. BHOS Unit 1 has completed his assignment. Monroe County Central Dispatch clear, KLW 247-2027.
On behalf of the family of David, we would like to thank all of you for your kind words, for your eulogies, for the sincere stories and laughter that you have shared, not only in these past few hours, but the past few days. And as many have spoken and challenged, you would continue to create the kind of laughter and humor and share the same kind of joy as you continue on living out your days that he did while he was here on the earth. And so we'll close with a prayer, and we will listen to one final song. And after that song is over with, as the song would encourage you, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So you're welcome to stay for just a few moments, but you do have to go home eventually. So if you would, bow your heads and let's pray. Lord, we do thank you for all the many blessings, for all the great joys that we get to experience because of your character, because of your goodness and your faithfulness to us. And we are reminded that there are times in life where we get to see that so evidently, so personally, so up close. And we're reminded today about us getting to see that up close and personal through David. And so we're thankful of the stories that we get to share, and we're thankful not only because we get to share them, but because we've gotten to experience and to know what life is like with him. And so we pray for grace. We pray for strength and courage as we figure out what it's like to live life without him. But although we will experience life without him, we are resting in blessed assurance, knowing that he is currently spending the rest of time up there with you, and we thank you for that assurance that we have as we live out our final days. And as we have called in his end of watch, we pray that you would allow us to rest in his confidence that he has done everything he needed to here on this earth, and that you would allow us to have the same strength that he was able to walk out his days on earth, that we would be able to have that same strength. So God, we love you. We thank you for all the ways that you take care of us, and that you bless us. And we thank you that because of your son Jesus, we don't have to say goodbye, but we get to say, we'll see you later and see you soon. And it is in the name of Jesus that I pray. Amen.
Closing time, open all the doors and let you out into the world. Closing time, turn all of the lights on over every boy and every girl. Closing time, one last call for alcohol, so finish your whiskey or beer. Closing time, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I know you want to take me home. I know you want to take me home. I know you want to take me home. Take me home. Closing time. places you will be from. Most of the time, there's no worry of the system now. So gather up